not what it appears to be. Most of what you read or see in the media cannot be taken at face value. Most of it is a deliberate ruse or a misdirection or has an underlying or subliminal message. Much of it is about influence, trying to convince you of something or of a particular way of thinking, trying to sell you something you either need or do not need. Trying to reset your worldview, and it can be treacherous. In fact, once your perception, perspective or paradigm has been influenced, then just about everything you see or read thereafter is interpreted through that lens. For example, the recent news about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, February 2022, can be interpreted based on how you view certain political ideologies. If you are a communist or if you live in Russia, your news will tell you that Russia is concerned for her border security and a provocation by the West and the United States' encroachment on their borders via NATO. Russian television host Dmitry Kiselyov alleges that Ukraine is being pushed to escalate war in the Donbas by the United States and other NATO countries. He goes on to say that Russia does not want war and neither do the separatist republics of DPR and LPR, Kiselyov said, adding that Ukraine is preparing to conduct an assault on the Donbas and already launching sabotage and terrorist attacks in Donetsk and Luhansk. Kiselyov also claimed that U.S. President Joe Biden's warning about an upcoming Russian invasion of Ukraine actually means the opposite. What it really means is that in the next few days, next week, America will come up with a provocation, or has already come up with it, in order to claim that Donbas, and Russia, have attacked Ukraine, Kiselyov said. If you are a President Biden administration adherent, you may be told that Russian President Vladimir Putin is responsible for record-high gas prices in the United States, coining the surge as the hashtag Putin price hike and vowing that President Biden will do everything he can to shield Americans from pain at the pump, ignoring the fact that he stopped the Keystone XL pipeline from Canada and froze new oil and gas leases on federal lands. The conservative press is saying that Biden is being criticized by both Democrats and Republicans for high gas prices, which have risen sharply under his administration even before Russia's invasion. Many have publicly called for him to open up oil and gas drilling in the United States to lessen the country's dependence on foreign oil. Margaret Thatcher, Britain's former Prime Minister, is noted for saying, "It used to be about trying to do something. Now it's about trying to be someone." And in the cases I have used as an example, each one is trying to project themselves as someone they would like to be, and others as being someone they may or may not be. Thatcher muses that it isn't as important as what you say, as it is what you get done. And, Mrs. Thatcher had it right. Nowadays, people wanting to be in power will say whatever it takes to gain influence and power. This can put the rest of us in a position that we must choose a side based on the available information, most of which is dubious at best. Even then, it is not enough to make an assertion or a claim, it is in the doing that a matter is proven. But the truth still lies. There is one place you can gain the power of wisdom for understanding when making decisions. And, it is through the lens of wisdom you must filter information to arrive at the dependable conclusion of the truth. The wisdom that reveals the truth is reliably found in the Bible. Unlike science, biblical wisdom and truth deal with the foundations of understanding and core beliefs of the human experience. It is from these core beliefs, the heart, which springs the issues of life. Science, put simply, strives to delve into the science of nature and physics. Science deals with theories and data which require empirical evidence and is subject to constant reassessment and change, as history has shown. The Bible, however, deals with the nature of humankind and has proven to be prophetic by its nature, inerrant in its accuracy and exacting in its application. Where one should support the other, mankind has myopically separated the two and set them at odds. The first book of the Bible, Genesis, was written in or around 1445 BC, which makes it about 3,400 years old, but covers an incalculable length of Earth history. This is where biblical wisdom is stored. This wisdom has been repeatedly and thoroughly tried and tested. And, over thousands upon thousands of years, it has been found to be accurate, dependable and without error when properly understood and persistently applied. Note, if you choose to dismiss this thesis of the Bible and of science without reading to the end and thinking this through, reading any further will just be a waste of your time. If, however, you are a critical thinker, please read on. Proverbs 9:10 capsulates where this wisdom is to be found, saying, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Allow me to caution that you cannot read the Bible and reach the correct understanding if you read through a scientific or a natural mind. The Bible says as much in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verses 6 through 16, "We speak wisdom among those who are mature, a wisdom, however, not of this age nor of the rulers of this age, who are passing away, but we speak God's wisdom in a mystery, the hidden wisdom which God predestined before the ages to our glory, The wisdom which none of the rulers of this age has understood, for if they had understood it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory, but just as it is written. Things which eye has not seen and ear has not heard, and which have not entered the human heart. All that God has prepared for those who love Him. For to us God revealed them through the Spirit, for the Spirit searches all things, even the depths of God. For who among people knows the thoughts of a person except the spirit of the person that is in him? So also, the thoughts of God no one knows, except the Spirit of God. Now we have not received the Spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, so that we may know the things freely given to us by God. We also speak these things, not in words taught by human wisdom, but in those taught by the Spirit, combining spiritual thoughts with spiritual words. But a natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them, because they are spiritually discerned. But the one who is spiritual discerns all things, yet he himself is discerned by no one. For who has known the mind of the Lord, that he will instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. Compromise is a tool of fools and liars. Compromise. Kmpr N. V. Mist, Missing. N. 1. A settlement of differences by mutual adjustment or modification of opposing claims, principles, demands, etc., agreement by mutual concession. 2. The result of such a settlement. 3. Something intermediate between different things. 4. An endangering, especially of reputation, exposure to danger, suspicion, etc. VT. 5. To settle by a compromise. 6. To expose or make vulnerable to danger, suspicion, scandal, etc., jeopardize. Such mistakes compromise our safety. 7. To bind by bargain or agreement. 8. To bring to terms. VI. 9. To make a compromise or compromises. 10. To make a dishonorable or shameful concession, to compromise with one's principles. The most widely used variant of a compromise, which is a nothing more than a ploy, a plot and a scheme of deceit, is the Hegelian Dialectic. Hegel's theory of the dialectic is the method crafted in 1847 by the London Communist League, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and used to back up their economic theory of communism. Now, in the 21st century, Hegelian Marxist thinking affects our entire social and political structure. The Hegelian dialectic is the framework for guiding our thoughts and actions into conflicts that lead us to a predetermined solution. If we do not understand how the Hegelian dialectic shapes our perceptions of the world, then we do not know how we are helping to implement the vision. When we remain locked into dialectical thinking, we cannot see out of the box. The communist Marxist globalist movement, which emanates from within the heart of the United Nations, guided by their Agenda 2030 documents, skillfully uses this dialectic method to have achieved their nefarious goals of a one-world Marxist-style government which they brazenly say will be complete by the year 2030. This has been accomplished over the last 30 years without any effective resistance. What follows is a nightmare straight out of the book of the Revelation, culminating at Armageddon. Be proactive, counteractive. It is vital to counter the false information, the fake news, that is negatively affecting your life and your future. Remember that as important as it is to speak the truth in the face of lies, it is even more important, even vital, that we perform the truth through action. By now perhaps you might ask, so, what does this truth look like? I will now take a decidedly and sudden turn back the source of truth, the Bible. Jesus says, in John 14:6, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. So, if you want to know what the truth looks like, study the life, methods and ways of Jesus. It would take more time and space than I can afford at this time to describe all of the characteristics and traits of Jesus, found in the Bible. But, referring to him as the truth and the Lion of Judah will get us started in the right direction. I want to focus on just one trait, the dependability and resolve of Jesus as the truth. Why did Jesus come into the world? 1. To testify to the truth. John 18:37 Therefore Pilate said to him, So you are a king? Jesus answered, You say correctly that I am a king. For this purpose I have been born, and for this I have come into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice. 2. To bring a sword. Matthew 10:34 Do not think that I came to bring peace on the earth, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Verse 35 For I came to turn a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Verse 36 And a person's enemies will be the members of his household. 3. To fulfill the law. Matthew 5:17 Do not presume that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill the law and the prophets. 4. To call sinners. Mark 2:17 And hearing this, Jesus said to them, It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. 5. To save the world. John 12:47 If anyone hears my teachings and does not keep them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. 6. To cast fire and bring division upon the earth. Luke 12:49 I have come to cast fire upon the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. Verse 50 But I have a baptism to undergo, and how distressed I am until it is accomplished. Verse 51 Do you think that I came to provide peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather to create division. What he really meant. John 14:12 Truly, truly I say to you, the one who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also, and greater works than these he will do, because I am going to the Father. 13 And whatever you ask in my name, this I will do, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. 14 If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it. I have heard so many preachers, Bible teachers and detractors alike, try to justify or explain away these words of Jesus because they just cannot fathom the gentle and sweet dashboard Jesus saying such things as we find in the verses cited. These same confused preachers really get tied in a knot over John 14:12. They will begin their commentary of teaching it with, what this really means is. Jesus said what he meant and meant exactly what he said. He is our model for our countercultural resistance to the growing global threat of communist Marxist globalism, and we need to get on with it. Jesus' time on earth was spent fulfilling the purpose and will of his Father, Matthew 5:19, Matthew 5:39. Jesus was on a singular mission, John 6:38, and nothing would stand in the way of accomplishing that mission, for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. Jesus had a divine appointment with a cruel Roman cross. Read what he said when Peter proposed to get in the way of his mission. Matthew 16:21-23. From that time Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem, and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised up on the third day. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, God forbid it, Lord. This shall never happen to you. But he turned and said to Peter, Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are not setting your mind on God's interests, but man's. Jesus always taught the will of his Father, then demonstrated what he taught. He expects us to do the same. Ephesians, chapter 6, gives us a clear teaching and picture of the type of preparation and resolve we are to assume. Strong's Concordance, stand firm, histomai, to make to stand, to stand. Definition, to make to stand, to stand. Usage, make to stand, place, set up, establish, appoint, place myself, stand, set in balance, weigh, in trans, stand, stand by, stand still, met, stand ready, stand firm, am steadfast.
Stand, i.e., continue safe and sound, stand unharmed, Acts 26:22.
Stand ready or prepared, Ephesians 6:14. Steadfast mind, 1 Corinthians 10:12. Who does not hesitate, does not waver, of one who vanquishes his adversaries and holds the ground, also of one who in the midst of the fight holds his position against the foe, to persist, continue, persevere, so as not to fall from thy faith. Ephesians 6:10-17. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God, so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the full armor of God, so that you will be able to resist in the evil day, and having done everything, to stand firm. Stand firm therefore, having girded your loins with truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace, in addition to all, taking up the shield of faith with which you will be able to extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. And take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Jesus' demonstration of steadfast, unmovable courage. Confronting the storm. Mark 4:35-41. On that day, when evening came, he said to them, Let us go over to the other side. Leaving the crowd, they took him along with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And there arose a fierce gale of wind, and the waves were breaking over the boat so much that the boat was already filling up. Jesus himself was in the stern, asleep on the cushion, and they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he got up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Hush, be still." And the wind died down and it became perfectly calm. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They became very much afraid and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Confronting demons. Luke 8:26-33. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And when he came out onto the land, he was met by a man from the city who was possessed with demons, and who had not put on any clothing for a long time, and was not living in a house, but in the tombs. Seeing Jesus, he cried out and fell before him, and said in a loud voice, "What business do we have with each other, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For it had seized him many times, and he was bound with chains and shackles and kept under guard, and yet he would break his bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They were imploring him not to command them to go away into the abyss. Now there was a herd of many swine feeding there on the mountain, and the demons implored him to permit them to enter the swine. And he gave them permission. And the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. Before Pilate. John 19:8-12. Therefore when Pilate heard this statement, he was even more afraid, and he entered into the praetorium again and said to Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. So Pilate said to him, "You do not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to release you, and I have authority to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no authority over me, unless it had been given you from above. For this reason he who delivered me to you has the greater sin." As a result of this, Pilate made efforts to release him, but the Jews cried out saying, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Everyone who makes himself out to be a king opposes Caesar." Before the Sanhedrin. Matthew 24:57-67. Those who had seized Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were gathered together. But Peter was following him at a distance as far as the courtyard of the high priest, and entered in, and sat down with the officers to see the outcome. Now the chief priests and the whole council kept trying to obtain false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. They did not find any, even though many false witnesses came forward. But later on 2 came forward, 61, and said, "This man stated, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to rebuild it in 3 days." The high priest stood up and said to him, "Do you not answer? What is it that these men are testifying against you?" But Jesus kept silent. And the high priest said to him, "I adjure you by the living God, that you tell us whether you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said it yourself. Nevertheless I tell you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power, and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has blasphemed. What further need do we have of witnesses? Behold, you have now heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and beat him with their fists, and others slapped him. Jesus did not draw back. He proceeded boldly to the cross and secured our salvation. Remember, Jesus came to earth for these stated reasons, and these same reasons are our method and our calling. To testify to the truth. This, too, is our calling. To bring a sword. This, too, is our calling. To fulfill the law. This, too, is our calling. To call sinners. This, too, is our calling. To save the world through Jesus. In a very real sense, this, too, is our calling, by lifting the name of Jesus, telling others and leading them to Him. To cast fire and bring division upon the earth. This, too, is our calling. Don't be led or misled by the sheep or the hirelings. Follow the Lion of Judah. Your brother and friend, Mike Young.